Hello, my name is Laureen. My name sign is this. I was asked about autism. Autism is discrimination or prejudice against individuals who themselves are deaf or hard of hearing. This could be manifested through attitude or pathological thinking that results in negative stigmas against those persons who cannot hear, similar to racism or sexism. Audism is a way in prejudicing, labeling individuals based on that person's ability to hear or to speak with clarity. This concept was written by Tom Humphrey in 1995. Audism is really a reflection on a medical perspective that a disability might be able to be fixed. However, deaf people who grow up in a hearing family where that family doesn't know sign language are entrenched in this experience, this lived experience of autism, while those people think that deaf people might not be able to use their skills to get by. But no. In actuality, autism expressed by both hearing and deaf person, an autist, is all part of an attitude. There are several deaf persons that feel as though people make assumptions about our capability. It would be almost as though, for example, persons during COVID, we're all forced to wear masks. Everyone was masked. We understand that we wanted to be supportive, but for deaf persons, we rely so much on facial expressions that, and also the ability to pick up on some lip reading oftentimes. With masks, our ability to communicate was really limited. So I was not really able to understand while the person was wearing a mask. So maybe to write things out on paper or use apps like Cardzilla, which enable people to communicate. But even though I would offer those other options, people insisted on just speaking. They weren't familiar with deaf culture or a deaf lived experience. I wouldn't consider those unaware autists. It isn't their fault that they're not aware. However, if the attitude of their approach can be extremely frustrating for us and lead to a great deal of restriction for us. So even though there are different examples of audism, expecting a deaf or hard of hear person to go into the hearing community and to communicate with ease, that's just not realistic. We're not able to easily do that. Additionally, with regards to autism, thinking that somebody has a diminished capacity because they're deaf, that they're not able to work in a work environment or access education because they're not able to hear is a gross misconception, which makes us feel greatly diminished or oppressed. We are able to do all that hearing persons can do. We have intellectual ability and capacity. There's no reason to denigrate that. We do have some limitations in the same way that hearing persons have limitations as well. Also, there are some groups that might know some sign language and are able to communicate with the deaf community, but they are not or willing to bother with signing in front of a deaf person. If they're across the room or close by, they just rely on their voice or speaking. And that makes a deaf person feel not included. The same as if sitting around a round table and having a meal together, or lunch, or an event, or Thanksgiving gathering, for example. We know some of the people there. Some of them might even be family members or friends who are able to sign, or co-workers who are able to sign, but they don't use their signs while they're gathered there together. They just have the habit of speaking and not signing. And then it makes me feel as though, well, why am I sitting here at the table? Some others might say, oh, well, I'll tell you something. If there's something really funny just said, everyone's laughing, and the hearing person might say to the deaf person, oh, I'll tell you later, I'll tell you later. Come on, that's not really fair. Or if a deaf group is together and someone in the deaf community is skilled at lip reading or has skills, they tend to then be more oppressive to deaf people that don't have higher lip reading or speech skills. They almost look down on them as if to say, oh, I'll take care of it for you. So that deaf group is displaying audism towards other deaf persons. So what we would want persons to know about deaf people and their abilities is truly we can do everything in the same way that hearing persons can do it. It's in the same way of thinking about the abilities of a person who is blind and what they're able to do in educational or employment situations, traveling independently, buying a home independently, driving a car for deaf people, not for a blind person. But our ability to do anything independently. For us, communication with hearing people could be done through gestures, or maybe some have some skills with lip reading. But please remember, there's an average of about 30% of lip reading is accurate. It isn't 100% at all. It is absolutely impossible to catch everything while lip reading. It's typically about 30%. But using paper or pen or gestures or pointing, removing your mask so that we're able to read lips. I know soon we'll be less and less using masks, but just being aware of that and how important expression is as well. There's an app called Cardzilla. If you download that to your phone, you can easily communicate. Here's what it looks like. And you can erase the conversation and start again. And that can facilitate communication between a hearing and a deaf person quite easily. So really, deaf persons, we can do anything at all. We have the skills, we have the intellectual ability, we're able to do everything in the same way that hearing people are able to do it.